Live from Las Vegas, Nevada, it's WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts. With your host, the dazzling and talented Sandy Kastel. WIMA is a non-profit organization comprised of dynamic, influential women in the performing, visual, and literary arts, dedicated to empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. For the next 60 minutes, we'll meet local performers, painters, sculptors, singers, songwriters, musicians, comedians, dancers, authors, and more. Now, let's bring on the host. Here is Sandy Kastel.
Welcome to Women in Music and Arts. This is your host, Sandy Kastel, and we are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon. We are on KLAV 1230 and streaming online at KLAV1230.com. Our show today is sponsored by members of Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. You can find out more about Women in Music and Arts by going to our website, womeninmusicandarts.com. That's womeninmusicandarts.com. My guests today are visual artists. In the studio with us, we have WIMA member Lynda Knudson. Hi, Lynda. How are you?
Hi, Sandy. I'm fine, thank you.
Good. And calling in, we've got Jennifer Main, and later we're going to have Karla Rehm joining us at about the half hour. And also we have Amy Frost, who is one of our WIMA Advisory Board members. Welcome, ladies, to Women in Music and Arts.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Today's topic is the business of being an artist. The business
we love that.
of being an artist.
Yay.
Now, how does that work together when we've got left brain, right brain trying to work together, huh?
Well, it's finding people who can help you.
That's right, Amy. So what I'd like to do before we start our discussion, Amy, would you like to start us off with a little inspirational message?
I would love to. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been reading the book Selling with Intention. And it talks about the mindset and tools that you need to double or triple your sales this year.
Oh, we like that.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
So, and a quote from Mary Kay Ash, and she started Mary Kay Cosmetics when she was 60 years old. And I love this quote. Those who are blessed with the most talent don't necessarily outperform everyone else. It's the people with follow-through who excel.
That's wonderful.
Oh, very truthful.
That's great, like perseverance.
That and setting up a plan, and you make a commitment, you do it.
And bringing people together
Absolutely.
to help you with your vision.
Yeah.
Yes, like we're doing in Women in Music and Arts. We've got a wonderful dynamic group of women in visual, literary, and performing arts, and we also have a lot in the healing arts, as Amy is, because she does some inspirational messages and workshops that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Lynda, I wanted to talk a little bit with you first about your craft. You work a lot with nature products, with woods, and you take them and you carve them and you create these wonderful pieces of artwork. Could you tell us how you got involved in that, and what was your first inspiration to start doing that?
I got started in that when I found an old chest sitting alongside the road. And I picked it up and I threw it in the back of the truck and I took it home and I started sanding it and working on it and embellishing it, and it still sits in my living room today, and that was like in the 1980s, I guess. And then, of course, I've always been green. I've always been a nature lover. So that then just opened the doorway for me to go into different venues. And I got involved in sculpting, and I studied under a couple of really fine international artists. I don't actually have any schooling background. I'm mostly self-taught, but I have had good trainers. And I think sometimes when people say to me, I have no schooling. In fact, at the WIMA gathering the other day, I was talking to someone who said exactly that. She says, but I don't have any education in the arts at all. And I don't either, if you look at education. But it just goes to show that, if you have the right attitude, that you can just project that right on out and coming out of the box, being who you are, and not being ashamed to say that, no, I don't have the education, but I am self-taught, and I'm very pleased to say that. So.
I think that's a wonderful thing to bring up to artists, especially our listening audience, because a lot of times, as you said, people feel because they don't have the formal education, I would say it is.
Yeah.
Because we get our education by living.
Yes, we do.
Through life. Okay, and we have inspiration just out of our insights into the way the world is. And just like you, seeing that chest, on the side of the road, it gave you an inspiration. And also you say here that you do a lot of work with recycled timbers from the Pacific Northwest area, and it says that the creations are already in existence deep within the wood, put there long before I began my journey to recreate.
Right. When I broke out of the box, when I first got involved in sculpting and carving, I wanted to be a figurative artist because that's what everyone was. And I struggled with that, and I couldn't, it just wasn't me. And when I gave up the attitude that I don't have to be a figurative artist, I can be a wildlife artist, and switched over, then I opened up my avenues to picking up wood and anywhere. It's everywhere. And what goes into our landfills is just such a waste. I don't want to get on my bandwagon about it.
I can tell you're passionate about it.
I'm extremely
I hear it in your voice.
About it, yeah. But anyway, that's where I went with this. There's a lot of mills in the central and northern part of California. Timber mills, that we find the wood comes down and then it goes in and then it's processed lumber. Well, the parts that's not processed is the parts that are dumped usually in places like the Klamath Falls River. And it goes down and then it meets the beach in the Pacific, and there's where you find your wealth. So I go down there and then I pack up my wagon or my truck and then I bring it all back. And so that's how it all gets started.
Well, nature is an inspiration. I remember I love hiking and walking, and even when I was traveling on the road singing with a band when I was 18 years old, everywhere we would go, Alaska, Canada, the Midwest,
exactly.
The white sands of Alamogordo, New Mexico. I mean, everywhere you went, I'd go for a walk. And I would discover something. I'd never seen all the white sands. I mean, come on, I've seen a movie maybe with sand in it, like from Arabia or something.
Yeah.
But to actually be there, to actually be looking at a glacier in Alaska, and being up in the Matanuska Valley, and looking at the metal. Yes, and the energy that you get when you're in nature.
True. Yeah.
Okay, and by taking that, and like you said, you're taking something that's already been recreated. What you're doing is giving it another life within somebody's home that it eventually is going to get into someone's home.
Absolutely.
And that's going to maybe take them back and remind them of what it feels like to be out there in nature.
Yes, exactly. We're trapped inside so much of the time.
I know.
Yeah.
How powerful is that?
Yeah, and you get, it's like, I don't know how other artists are, I can only speak for myself, but you just go into that right brain attitude, and it's very difficult to get out of it, because once you get there, you don't want to think, you don't want to eat, you just want to be focused and just complete, your destination on that piece of wood.
For those of you who are just tuning in, you're listening to Women in Music and Arts. And I'm your host, Sandy Kastel. We are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon on KLEV AM 1230. And a lot of people get confused when I tell them we're on 1230, AM radio, and they think the show begins at 1230. And I'm like, no, we begin at noon, but our call letters are 1230 on the AM dial. So just remember, that's where you can find Women in Music and Arts every Wednesday at noon. So, Amy, tell us a little bit about your inspiration, because you've had a lot of areas that you've grown up in, that you've explored, and some of them are quite diverse.
For me, it's always been about business and taking things and making repurposing, like just like with the wood, and finding ways that we can collaborate. I think that's my biggest gift, is collaboration, facilitation. Like you said, bringing profits and nonprofits together, coming up with ideas that other people hadn't thought of and putting them into action.
Right.
Yeah, and that is what excites me. And being able to help people who are, left or right brain, and help them to use their whole brain.
That's true. That's a novel idea.
Yeah, and come together, right braiders and left braiders, and love each other instead of, you're on one side, I'm on the other, and finding ways that we can support each other's art. Because I think my art is facilitation. And everybody has their own art, and that's one thing about who is your client And part of that, I think, is figuring out what are your gifts and talents.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then that's what I want to encourage. And it may be the obvious. I always saying, there's a lot more to you, certainly, than singing is fabulous, but the other gifts that you bring. And I think that's important, to bring that right brain and that left brain together is what are all my gifts that I can bring to the table. Some I'll get paid for, some I won't.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it's not all about that all the time. It's about the heart, right?
Amen. It's always about the heart. If you're really following the heart, I think the money comes.
Well, it is a balance. I mean, all of life is, you know. I mean, it's balancing what we're passionate about and then also putting food on the table and keeping a roof over our head. And as an artist, we're passionate about our artwork, and we can get lost in it for hours and hours at a time, right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
when you're working on a piece, it can take you a long time. Right. We've got some callers calling in soon, sometime today. Jennifer Main is going to be calling in later, and Karla Rehm. And our guests here in the studio are Amy Frost and Lynda Knudson. We just had an event on Sunday, which was absolutely amazing, I have to admit. All of the artists that were involved. It was the WIMA Artisan Showcase, and it's our first big art event of the year of 2012. And I was so excited about it because we had Fox 5 there. They put us on the news, from like 10 to 11. We were spotlighted. And then even the next morning. But what I noticed is we had a variety of different styles in our artwork. We had from the nature woodworking artwork to we had glass art, and then we had painters, sculptors, jewelry makers, stonework. We had handbags that were made by Sandra Marnell, and it was actually hosted at Sandra Marnell's home out in Southern Highlands, which is a lovely place to be. And it was very what I heard about. And what a lot of the artists said about her home is that she has a lot of artwork around it herself, but it also has a lot of wood in the floors and around in the doorways. And even though she had a lot of artwork in her house, including our artwork, the home felt warm, and welcoming. And that's a very important thing. And I think that's what art contributes a lot of times to homes, especially like what you're saying.
I think our homes, we create them art. A good friend of mine, she's a counselor, her trains counselors, but she's all about creativity. And you go into her house and in her kitchen, the cabinets are all painted and everything's art. And she makes jewelry, but she hangs the jewelry, so you don't really realize it's jewelry. It looks like art, and so it's a way of being. It's a way of living. And I'm all about functional art.
Well, it throws off the energy. It's like I redid all my kitchen cabinets, and I've knocked out walls, and I tore out 2 bathrooms, and I will follow that up by saying that may sound good, but none of them are finished. That's the key thing. That's the bad and the downside about being an artist. Is
you're never done.
Well, we've always got a few works in progress, don't we?
Yes, we do. But you can feel the energy, and I felt that in Sandra's house. The minute I walked in that door, it was just a warmth, like Sandy was saying. It was just a warmth that was just incredible of energy.
We're very lucky in Las Vegas because we have a lot of beauty around and even though it's different than the East Coast, we don't have like the big green grass thing, even though we water our yards so that we have grass. But we have the Red Rock Mountains, we have the Sunrise Mountains, we have all these beautiful mountains around us, and there's a lot of places in the United States that don't have that opportunity to see so much, like New York City. And so for people that are living in towering, buildings that are pretty cold, can be cold, them bringing artwork in is very important also. So I guess what my point is I'm getting to is that art is important in our lives, and it's important for us to keep it in the schools and to help artists achieve their goals, and that's what WIMA is all about. Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. And one of the things that's very important in our program is to raise funds for scholarships. So for all of our listening audience out there, if you go to our website, womeninmusicandarts.com, please take a few moments to peruse through the different artists and the information that we have up on our sites. Go to YouTube, see some of our radio shows that we have up there, and then become a member. It's very reasonably priced, and it all goes to helping our operating costs. And you can be a sponsor of the radio show or some portion of our events, and you can also donate to the WIMA Scholarship Fund so that we can send young artists and artists of all ages out there to pursue their passions and to keep bringing beauty back into our lives.
Right.
We're going to take a short station break right now for one of our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Now you say you're lonely. You cried the long night through. Well, you can cry me a river, cry me a river. I cried a river over you. Now you say you're sorry for being so untrue. Well, you can cry me a river, cry me a river. I cried a river over you.
Are you tired of your old job? Are you starting over? Are you looking for a new career? Join Sandy Kastel, Amy Kardashian, and Eric Johnson for Empowering Women Workshops, Saturday, June 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hampton Inn in Henderson. As a former Miss Nevada recording artist and author, Sandy Kastel will show you how to tune out negative influences and follow your dream. In her informational Don't Tell Me I Can, she'll also give a sneak preview of her new album, Indiana Rehm. Motivational speaker and author of Tears of Hope, Amy Kardashian, will help you stay focused on your new project. And Eric Johnson will wrap up the day with his tried and true method for finishing your project. It's Empowering Women Workshops, Saturday, June 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hampton Inn in Henderson. Learn more about Empowering Women Workshops at empoweringwomenworkshops.com.
Make a difference with WIMA, Women in Music and Arts. WIMA is a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. And becoming a member is easy. Log on to WIMAinternational.com. That's WIMA, W-I-M-A, international.com. Or call 702-240-2930. 702-240-2930. The benefits of membership are many. There are empowering women workshops, monthly WIMA mixers at different locations, art shows, songwriter showcases, big band performances, poetry readings, and so much more. And membership starts at just $25. Log on now to WIMAinternational.com or call 702-240-2930. That's 702-240-2930. WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts.
You're listening to WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts. Here again is your host, Sandy Kastel.
Welcome back to Women in Music and Arts, and this is your host, Sandy Kastel. We are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon on KLAV AM radio, 1230 on your dial, and streaming online at KLAV1230.com. Our show today is sponsored by the members of Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship, and you can find out more about Women in Music and Arts by going to our website, womeninmusicandarts.com. That's womeninmusicandarts.com. My guests today are visual artists. In the studio with us today are WIMA members Lynda Knudson and Amy Frost, who's on the WIMA Advisory Board. Calling in right now, we have Jennifer Main, and later we will have Karla Rehm joining us. I understand Jennifer's on the phone right now. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good. So you're still unpacking from Sunday's show, I understand.
Oh, yeah, we have a van load of all kinds of things beyond what was there for the show. But yeah, it's full of art, that's for sure.
I know. As a matter of fact, it was great that Jennifer and her husband drove in from Los Angeles to set up and be at our show, the Artisan Showcase, which was hosted at Sandra Marnell's home in Southern Highlands this past Sunday. And we had a wonderful show, and it was great to have you there, Jennifer.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was awesome to be there, and very nice event.
Now you displayed, I think, about 4 or 5 of your pieces there. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we had about 5 pieces there. We brought some of the larger work since that works with the space.
So tell us a little bit, and tell our listeners out there, how did you get started, and how did you know that you wanted to be an artist? What was your first, big inspiration that got you started in artwork?
When I was younger, really as a kid growing up, I was interested in many different things, such as art or gymnastics or piano. But when I came across art, it was like it went beyond. I just enjoyed it way beyond anything else. And it was like it was a true passion. And I thought, if there's a way to do this, the rest of my life, then I'm going to do it. And I started pursuing more studying in it through school and learning different techniques. And it did. The opportunities came, and I took them and was able to make a career out of doing what I love.
And you did start very young, and also you presented your artwork to the world pretty young, too. How old were you when you actually had your first show?
My first show, the first serious show in the gallery was 17.
17 years old.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so that really gave me the spark of like, okay, I can do this, and I got an early start with that.
Now, I understand that your parents were very supportive of you going forward with the arts.
They were fairly supportive. I think there was a half and half. They were like, oh, crap, my daughter wants to be an artist. You got to get a degree and have something to fall back on. And so they were a little worried, but at the same time, they knew that there was something there. So they were supportive with helping find other galleries, in the beginning days, just getting out there. And they were very supportive, though, all along as far as just helping me do what I wanted to do.
Now, I'm sure you've met a lot of artists in your travels, and I'm sure you've heard that not every artist has had a very supportive environment to grow up in to pursue their arts.
That is very true. Yeah, I've heard some pretty rough stories of parents even throwing away art or just telling them it's just silly, kid stuff, and to do something that's not so out there. So,
which is not very supportive, and it's kind of doesn't give them a very positive feeling about who they are in the world.
It doesn't. Yeah, to have anyone limit what you feel naturally inclined to do is just it can really tear you up. And I experienced a little bit of that even with my own parents. While I say they're supportive, it hurts. It's the support is so important.
It's the same thing with your spouse, too, because after you move out of the household, if you happen to have a spouse that is not supportive, I had a very supportive spouse, so that was different. And he was in construction, and I'm very structural, so it worked out really, really well. He's not an artist, but, it worked out well. So I know where you're coming from on that. I think that exists in everyone, just about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very important to have a spouse who's supportive. I've seen also many artists where the spouse just doesn't understand why they have a need to create art or whatever it is, or to do an artistic dream, and they think it's like you're not making, especially if they're not making money doing it, like that's a waste of time.
Taking money away.
Right?
So I have the most supportive husband ever, and that makes all the difference too.
That's great. I wanted to ask you, how did you develop your style? Because you have a very unique style, and I'm sure you've been compared to other artists also. So tell us a little bit about how that evolved, because I know as a student a lot of the arts, a lot of times you explore different masters, and you they'll have you do different artwork pieces by different masters, but then you find your own voice. And how did you find your own voice in the arts?
Yeah, that's very true. Definitely studied some of the masters very intensely in the beginning, starting with Salvador Dali was a big influence. I loved the surrealist work, and I would just look through his books, and I could take hours to get through one book. I would just study each page and each picture. And then from there, I got to really fall in love with the Cubist style and Picasso specifically. And you could see in my work, as I'd sketch as a young artist, those two would start to influenced my work, and you could see that there. And then past that, you start to shape your own ideas and who you are and what you want to express. And I think I've always had this innate sense for color, and so the color's always been there, and just kind of that whimsical, exaggerated, anything can happen, which I feel like that comes from the surrealist side. And then, so I have the elements of the cubist and the surreal and the symbolism, like Frida Kahlo. I love how she shows her life through her art and is very transparent in it. And so I also am very inspired by her.
Yes.
And,
what were you going to say, Lynda?
Did you ever feel stifled from in the beginning stages, that you felt like you had to stay in the footprint of certain people, or what your friends or your family was, the direction that they were telling you to go in, and perhaps your heart was telling you to go in a different way? Sort of breaking outside the box.
Yeah, there was, I guess overall I've always felt, definitely, I've always been very independent and had to listen to my own voice, or I wouldn't be where I'm at. So I think
good for you.
With my style, I was very much like, this is what I'm going to do. I was very in tune with what my heart was telling me, and so that was the hardest thing, because you have so much influence and so many people, whether it's friends, parents, other galleries. Go this way, go that way. This is what's popular, and I always had to say, no, I'm going to listen to what I feel my heart saying. And the only time someone would try to lead me was sometimes galleries that would represent me, or an agent. I had someone representing me for years when I was younger, and they said, this is what's selling these days. You need to go with this. These are the hot colors. I'm like, what? Like, I'm not here to do that. Like, I need to stay true to myself. So,
do you do a lot of commission work? And if so, do you find that it's a problem when people want specific needs or requests? Does it kind of go against your grain? When you see something differently and you try to say, well, it would be better if perhaps we went this way, do you run into kind of a stumbling block at that stage?
At times, yes. Commissions present a different challenge. While I fully enjoy them and I appreciate the opportunity, it's, you're so much trying to get into their head and what
exactly
they're trying to communicate. And it's a whole different process, and I do a lot of that now. And I need to be careful to not say, not just go their way. I'm like, I know what is going to look good. I know maybe you think all this needs to be in there, but this is not going to look good. Like, trust me. Like, we need to kind of make some edits, and so it's like I've learned to communicate with them and just go back and forth and find a good middle ground. And it ends up being all the commissions everyone's been thrilled with, but it is a challenge on my part, since it's such a different process.
Well, that's good. That kind of leads into our questions that I want to discuss after we come back from a little pause. But you're listening to Women in Music and Arts, and we're going to take a little break here for one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
I love you, never know how much I care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever when you kiss me, a fever when you hold me tight. Fever in the morning, fever all through the night. Sun lights up the daytime, moon lights up the night. I light up when you call my name, and you know I'm gonna treat you right. You give me fever.
I'm Dolly Coulter.
And this is Bert Anderson. Join us Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. for the Women in Music and Arts children's radio show featuring Bixby's Tales.
We'll take you on adventures all around the world with our wonderful roving reporters, Joey and Henry.
And don't forget about me. I'm Bixby. I'm their dog.
Oh, Bixby, we could never forget about you. So don't forget, come and join us every Saturday morning at 9:30. We're going to take you on the adventures of a lifetime.
Hi, this is Sandy Kastel with WIMA, W-I-M-A, Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts. Join me every Wednesday at noon as I introduce you to the members of Women in Music and Arts, a nonprofit organization comprising of dynamic, influential women in the performing, visual, and literary arts, dedicated to empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. Discover how we are making a difference by supporting the arts and providing scholarships today to develop the artists of tomorrow. Learn the tools and techniques available to develop creativity and pursue your passion with segments from our Empowering Women workshops. We will keep you informed about our upcoming WIMA mixers, art shows, performances, and community outreach programs, and let you know how you can make a difference with WIMA.
Become a member of WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, 702-240-2930. Become a member, WIMAinternational.com. Women in Music and Arts, Las Vegas's #1 women's organization for scholarships in the arts.
Providing scholarships today to develop the artists of tomorrow. This is WIMA. And here again is your host, Sandy Kastel.
Welcome back to Women in Music and Arts, and I'm your host, Sandy Kastel. We are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon, so please join us on KLAV AM 1230 on your dial. We are also streaming online at KLAV1230.com, and our show is sponsored by members of Women in Music and Arts, empowering artists of all ages through education and mentorship. You can find out more about Women in Music and Arts by going to our website, womeninmusicandarts.com. That's womeninmusicandarts.com. My guests today are visual artists. In the studio with us, we have WIMA members Lynda Knudson and Amy Frost, who is on our advisory board. And calling in, we have Jennifer Main calling in from California, and Karla Rehm is on the line from right here in Las Vegas. Hi, Karla.
Hello, Sandy. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Women in Music and Arts on KLAV. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How are you all?
Good, good. Go ahead, and I want to ask you, what was your inspiration when you were a young person, when you were a child, or whenever it was that you decided that art was the thing for you?
That was never a conscious choice or decision. As a child, I loved being in my room making just anything. My parents provided me with scissors and paper and pencils and things, and I just would entertain myself for hours in there. I don't even remember not doing that.
Okay, so you started out right away doing it, and then your parents obviously were very supportive of you pursuing a career as an artist?
That was a little questionable.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
I remember I told them I wanted to go to art school, and they did support me with that. And I remember showing them things from art school. Of course, we were doing figure drawing, and we started doing nudes. So I would be so proud of them because I would actually get something in proportion and all the bodies looking really nice, and I'd bring it home, and I was so proud of it, and my mom and dad would look at it, and they were very uncomfortable, and my mom would say, "Can't you just do a landscape?"
That's funny.
So I think some of that made me feel bad because I thought, well, maybe it's not any good.
Yeah. Instead of understanding really what they were, where she was probably a little embarrassed by it, even though she, because probably because she was, but you interpreted it as, oh, I'm not good.
I did, and it took many years for me to figure out that that's what I was doing. And I a lot of times wouldn't show people my artwork at all for a number of years until I figured it out. I went, what am I doing? Who am I to choose that? Just because somebody might not like it doesn't not mean it's good or bad. It means this is my expression, and that's all there is.
So you continued your education though in school?
Oh yes, I graduated that way, and I went. Okay. And I have an art and education degree too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get any scholarships during that period of time when you were going to college?
I did not. I was moving around at that time, and I paid for it myself.
You did. How important do you think scholarships are for artists?
Oh, I think that was one of the most foolish things I ever did was pay for it myself because I didn't. Well,
Good attitude.
Yeah, who knew?
I struggled hard,
Yeah.
and my parents never went to college, so for them to support me and saying, "Hey, go out and get scholarship money," they didn't even know it existed either.
Yeah.
And so I did not really get the support that I could really well have used.
You know, that's a good point that you bring up, Karla, because maybe people don't realize that there are tons of scholarships out there available to people in all walks of life. It really is amazing, and I know that we can find out about them, I think, through, some government...
Oh, there's tons of different places we can help get resources for them.
Right. So for all of you artists out there who are wondering where you're going to get a scholarship, and we are raising funds for scholarships, but we are not the only place. I mean, there are a lot of opportunities for scholarships, but if you become a member of WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, we can help you to find those avenues and support you through that. That's part of our goal, is to mentor artists of all ages. Karla, how did you finally come to your style, develop your style? How did that happen?
Whoa, that's quite a long story.
Okay, well, give me the
I'll
2-second version of it.
I'll try to make a quick synopsis. I went through a very trying period of my life where it was a choice for me to get up in the morning and say, wow, I'm going to make today positive. I'm going to be happy today. And I would have to say that to myself because it was very, very challenging. And out of that, I one day got up and I was saying, I choose happy. I choose happy. And I visioned this painting.
That just gave me chills. That's so great.
I painted that. I painted it. That, I don't know, right away, and I hung it up and I used it for my own trigger because I was just choose the most positive path I can. And from that, once I made that painting, they just started coming to me, and I would wake up in the morning and have them, or they would come to me in a meditation, these paintings, and I just started doing them. And I got through that period of my life, and I know that it was the art that did it for me.
That's very interesting that you bring up dreams, because I've been doing dream work since I was 29 years old, and I've written songs that have come out of dreams. And when I was sculpting my Egyptian princess, during the process of sculpting her, I woke up and went right directly to the computer and had an 8-page dream of her life story with her brother.
Wow.
You know, I mean, and
Goodness,
so for any of you out there who have never kept a dream journal, I mean, it's so important, especially as an artist, you know, because I think inspirations come to us in many ways, is what we were just talking about. You get them from life, from challenges, like you said, from, you know, when we go through tough times and we have to literally, like you said, pick yourself up out of bed and say, today I choose happy.
Right. And I think that just what you just said, I think the diversity of life, instead of looking at it as a negative and taking it as a positive, but I also find that, having said that there are some people who are just not geared to that. And the mentorship program that WIMA offers, you know, is the kick in the rear end to help those people move beyond that really don't have that hard drive, but yet they know there's a big uncertainty in their life and they want to move into some field in the arts.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because the mentoring, even when it's not a structured thing, a lot of the women that are and men that are coming into Women in Music and Arts are expressing this, that they are getting mentoring just by being in these events that we're doing. Some of the people have been in town for a few years and have never had an opportunity. They haven't found their home. As Stephanie Thompson said, she said WIMA is home for her. She's been to several different networking events with other organizations, but WIMA felt like the home, and I think some of the visual artists have felt that too, and it makes me feel good that we are all, you know, supporting each other, and that the mentoring is going on, even just doing these events. And Amy, I want to invite you to tell us a little bit about what you wanted to share with us about selling with intention today.
Oh, it's really important to know what your gifts are.
Yeah.
And sometimes we think it's obvious, but a lot of times it isn't. And using different ones. I like Jennifer Main. I adore her.
Yes.
And you're talking about she working with nonprofits. She's found a lot of really great ways. We've had a nonprofit mixer at her gallery, and find ways to use your gifts with connecting with the community to solicit support. So one of the things I want to challenge people to do this week is to be looking at what are my gifts and talents, certainly art-wise, but all-wise. And then I'd like to be talking, probably next week we'll talk about your ideal client. And hopefully with Jennifer, she had done a piece for me and talked about, I let her do what I knew she should do.
Oh, good for
She's
you.
like, hopefully I'm an ideal client, because like I trust her. That's why I went to her and I said, this is what I need for inspiration. I have a picture right over my desk and I look at it every day, and it inspires me.
Yeah.
But I went to her because I believe in her and her work, and I wanted her to choose it. So part of that is finding the ideal client.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it works on both ways, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
You got what you wanted, and she did too.
Amen.
You know, there's some factors in creating your artwork, first of all. A couple of things I wanted to just run through, and I know we won't have time to discuss every single aspect of this. This is like an ongoing workshop, just like life is for us, just like creating art. But there are certain factors in creating your artwork. For the sculptors, they create the piece, there's time and energy involved, then they make the molds after completing the piece, then they go to the founder, and they've got to find the right founder, and then they've got to go through that process, which can take at least, I mean, it took us up to 20 weeks to get a piece done. And then, so you go through that process, and then there's the cost factor. Now you've had your time and energy involved, which could be up to a year. You know, sometimes people work quicker than that. It took me a year because I'm slow. And then you go and you do the molds, well, that costs money. Then you go do the foundry, and that costs money. And then you do, so by the time you're finished, you've got all this money invested and time, and then you have to go out and say, okay, now I want to take it to try to sell it or market it to an audience that doesn't always understand the costs of your pieces. Would you, artists, please address that? Karla, you want to start off? I'll start with Karla.
I don't well, that's true. I guess when you consider all the cost of your education and the...
your education too, yes.
Yeah. And even the cost of your living that causes, all of the stuff that we go through in life just to get to the point where you're painting what you're painting.
Right.
That's a tremendous amount of life experiences that are very valuable, and it is easy to undermine that when you're doing your artwork.
I think that the WIMA group and shows just like this, radio shows and videos, whatever, I think too helps the average person to begin to see their inner eye. They really don't know how to convey a message of style or design to you as an artist, and sometimes you have to really prod them a little bit to get them to realize that search your soul first as to exactly what you want. And then I think that a good sculptor or painter would take them that extra step to lead them into the area that they want to go into. And you hit upon the cost factor, and the cost factor for bronzing and for even woodworking is it changes daily. And lots of times when you have a commission, they don't always understand the cost factor. Why did it go up another 22%? Especially in the foundry work. So that's difficult. But I think that when the general public begins to train their eye and begin to look at art differently, it's going to be better for them, particularly if they want a piece of work done, commissioned out, and it's going to make it a lot easier for both people to work together.
Now, Jennifer, as a painter, it's a little different. With a painter, you've got, or mixed media or graphics, you're still creating the piece, you've got the time and energy, you've got framing. Do you decide, do I frame or do I not? Now, Jennifer, I don't think you use frames or on some of them but not on all of them, or are they all frameless?
Right. For the most part, I try to just have them stretched. I do the gallery wrap, where the image continues around the edge, so it can be hung without a frame.
And that's sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. It's become more the, I guess, popular and accepted way to display artwork, where it used to, traditionally be frame everything. But I leave it to the customer to find out whether they want to frame it. There's so many different styles and tastes in the frames that I feel like sometimes if I choose it up front, half the time they're not going to want it because they use that frame sometimes to tie it into their home decor.
That's right.
So and framing is very expensive. So it's if someone's not going to like it the way it is and change it right after they buy it, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sell my work without the frame. So that's what I choose to do on most of it.
But then also, you've got another avenue that you can go into, which is to take that original piece of artwork and you can choose, if you want to make prints, where you can do giclées, where you can do just prints, or I think giclées are, you can have them numbered, and then you can have cards or other products that you have, calendars and things like that with your artwork, but right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's been kind of the path I've been on. It started off with the originals, and then, those get to be a certain price range and out of reach for many people. So then you come in with the giclées, and the giclées are great. They're more the common form of reproduction. It's really done on an iris inkjet printer, which is specifically made to reproduce art. And the value there is you can do one at a time, where serigraphs or lithographs, back in the day, you have to do the entire edition at one time and hope that they all sell. So, the giclées are awesome because they look just as good as an original for the most part, and they last very long time. You use archival ink, and then the price can go down quite a bit further than an original, maybe a third of the price.
Exactly.
And then, and all the other little fun things like the cards or other items printed with it, and then you can just pick them up more as like gift items or little decoration type art.
Well, I have one of your purses, and I take it all over the country. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
What, does it
seriously.
have one of her prints on it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's
so,
great.
So people, who is that? And I send them right to the website. So she's advertising all over the place,
around the world.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
I know Karla does a lot of things online. I mean, she creates a lot of her graphics online. Karla, you want to address that?
I actually don't. That's the only graphics that have been done. That's if I've taken a piece of my artwork and given it to my daughter, who's a graphic designer. And
I see. Excuse me.
Out of that, I don't do any of it, anything online.
Okay, so you create it, and then she puts it up online, and then does graphics on top, or for.
Yeah, she will alter. And actually, she'll alter. She used some of Jennifer's just recently to do some invitations for WIMA, I think, and. And she just uses our artwork in order to create that. And I give her more creative license in some of mine to actually kind of tear them apart, so to speak, and put them into some graphic art things for flyers and things for me. So that they were.
And that's a good point you brought up too, because for each of our events, what we have done is we've asked our artists to, if they're interested, to donate, to let us use their artwork in one of our posters, and we are saving those so that by the end of the year, or maybe throughout the year, we will maybe be able to have a fundraising event where we are selling those off. So,
and
we appreciate that. So also we have marketing, which is websites, social media, promo materials, challenges, dealing with clients who have no visual concept, and commissions for art shows and festivals. But we're going to talk about that after a brief short message from our sponsors.
This Tuesday night at 6, join recording artist Sandy Kastel for Jazz and Cocktails, an intimate look into the world of jazz. Sandy's guests will include musicians, singers, songwriters, club owners, and jazz aficionados. Whether you're driving in traffic or just relaxing at home, tune in and enjoy an eclectic mix of jazz styles with Sandy Kastel. It's Jazz and Cocktails, Tuesday nights at 6. Are you tired of your old job? Are you starting over? Are you looking for a new career? Join Sandy Kastel, Amy Kardashian, and Eric Johnson for Empowering Women Workshops, Saturday, June 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hampton Inn in Henderson. As a former Miss Nevada recording artist and author, Sandy Kastel will show you how to tune out negative influences and follow your dream. In her informational Don't Tell Me I Can, she'll also give a sneak preview of her new album, Indiana Rehm. Motivational speaker and author of Tears of Hope, Amy Kardashian, will help you stay focused on your new project. And Eric Johnson will wrap up the day with his tried and true method for finishing your project. It's Empowering Women Workshops, Saturday, June 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hampton Inn in Henderson. Learn more about Empowering Women Workshops at EmpoweringWomenWorkshops.com.
Welcome to Women in Music and Arts. This is your host, Sandy Kastel, and we are broadcasting live from Las Vegas every Wednesday at noon on KLAV AM 1230 and streaming online at KLAV1230.com. The guests in my show today are visual artists. In the studio with us, we have WIMA members Lynda Knudson and our Amy Frost, who is on the WIMA Advisory Board. And on the phone with us, we have Jennifer Main and Karla Rehm. Ladies, we talked about, there's so many other things that we don't have time to cover everything, but a few of the things are that when we're marketing our materials, we need websites, we need social media, we need promo materials. Karla, would you like to touch on that a little bit?
Do you have a specific question? I was saying, yes, you need all of that.
I know. Well, in general, do you have your own website? Where can they find your artwork?
Oh, yes, I do have a website. It's karlarehm.com, and my name is spelled with a KARLAREHM.com.
Perfect. And then are you also on the social media networks like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube?
Yes, I'm on all of those, and you would say that I'm getting used to Facebook a little bit.
Okay.
And the YouTube's good. That's a handy way to send somebody a link to look at your artwork. I think that's that's really easy, more mainstream than Facebook even, I think.
Okay, and Jennifer?
Especially for a lot of older people.
And Jennifer, yes. And Jennifer, you have your own website?
Right, the website's jennifermain.com, and that's JenniferMain.com. And and I'm very active on Facebook and trying to be a little more active on Twitter, but and then also a lot of we have our videos of all different things, whether it's events or artwork, on Vimeo or YouTube.
That's great. And then Lynda?
I don't have my own website as yet, but I'm with WIMA, and they're going to get my website up and going, so I'm looking forward to that. We're in the beginning stages of setting that up.
That's great. So you'll be able to find more about all of our artists on womeninmusicandarts.com. And Amy, you have a website.
Get amyfrost.com. And one thing is I just put a new free gift on there, which is a worksheet that can help with all these things, mentoring and all these different things. So it's free. So, go on there, and for the price of your name and email.
All right, great.
You get the workbook.
Well, next week we're going to continue talking about these subjects and have other artists on the program. And we're going to talk a little bit about how someone can become a patron of the arts, and all the opportunities that are available for all artists. You are listening to Women in Music and Arts on KLAV 1230 AM every Wednesday at noon, and I want to thank my guests for being here with me today. It was a wonderful show.
Oh, thank you, Sandy.
And I look forward to having you back on the show again and working with you in upcoming events. If you want to be involved in WIMA, you can go to our website at womeninmusicandarts.com. You can be a sponsor. You can become a member. You can donate to the WIMA Scholarship Fund, and you can help us grow WIMA. And we appreciate all of your efforts. We have upcoming events. We have an Empowering Women workshop this weekend, Saturday at the Hampton Inn out in Henderson. Please go to our website and join us for that. We are available on YouTube.com. You can see all the videos and all of our guest speakers that we have on the radio show. And please join us for our mixers, which we have monthly, and you can find out when those mixers are going to be and where they're going to be on the website at womeninmusicandarts.com. Thank you for joining me. My name is Sandy Kastel, and this is WIMA, Women in Music and Arts, and we thank you for joining us. And we're going to play a little music to take you out today from my CD This Time Around.
Let's keep the party polite. Never get out of my sight. Stick with me, sister, I'm the gal that you came in with. Luck, be a lady tonight. heart, she'd have a soul. A lady would make little snake eyes at you, and I bet my life on this roll. So let's keep the party polite, never get out